business owners always fire the marketer, right? They always fire the ad guy, or they always fire the social media person or whatever. As I got closer and closer to these individuals writing, it became glaringly obvious when I'd ask the question, well, what does your fulfillment look like? What's your process? What happens after they click this? Or what happens after they respond? Or what happens after they purchase? Are you doing any follow-up? And never. It was like they painted the outside of the house, but the inside of the house was empty. And so no matter how good my copy was, necessarily didn't help them if their business was a mess.
Amanda, we made it.
Finally.
Yeah. I mean, we met, you were working at Inquiry. That was the name of your company when I first met you.
That was like 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now you're doing what? Like cash flow copy is like the new name?
Sure. I mean, there's new iterations every single time because I just can't help myself. But cash flow automations, cash flow operations, cash flow, all the things, just cash flow is always the goal. So, but yeah, we started out in copy, and then now we've kind of graduated into fractional COO and offer building, because as much as I could write for people, their systems and their operations and their offers were crap. And so no matter how good my copy was, necessarily didn't help them if their business was a mess. So I found myself wiggling into that position with multiple people over and over and over again. And I'm like, you know what? We're just going to call it what it is instead of hiding behind copy. So here we are.
Yeah. So how did you discover that? So you were writing good like ads or websites, and then people were getting people to come to them, and then they weren't able to seal the deal?
Yeah. And so inevitably, business owners always fire the marketer, right? They always fire the ad guy, or they always fire the social media person or whatever. So I kept seeing this pattern happen with other freelancers that I would work with. And they're like, man, I did everything. It was like bomb copy, but here's, it kept failing, or they couldn't close, or they weren't making money. And as I got closer and closer to these individuals writing their books, writing their copy, their ads, whatever copy they needed, it became glaringly obvious when I'd ask the question, well, what does your fulfillment look like? What's your process? What happens after they click this? Or what happens after they respond? Or what happens after they purchase? Are you doing any follow-up? And never. It was like they painted the outside of the house, but the inside of the house was empty. And so as I kept finding myself in these situations over and over and over again, I learned how to fix these problems through automations or just through SOPs and management and team management and building, and would naturally just step into that next level of the process within their business. And they're like, holy cow, this is amazing. And they would never know what to call me. They'd always be like, this is and then they would make up some title, but it was a fractional COO position technically. So a lot of people will call me a lot of different things. A few of them will call me some bad things, but hey, whatever. Got to make a few enemies along the way. The majority of them will call me their right-hand woman, their brand director, their business director, or their COO, which is the most accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of that. I've hired people to help me with things, and then it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was a me problem or a them problem. I don't know. But it seems like you've figured out that a lot of people don't have a system in place, and that system then allows to nature a potential prospect to turn into a client. So what was the final straw for you to realize man, I'm writing these good things, but people just keep ghosting me or saying thanks, but no thanks. I'm not going to use you again sort of deal. I actually hired someone to help me, and then I just never hear back from them. So I don't know if they feel guilty sometimes, or if it's something that I did. So I'm still attempting to figure that out too. How do you create a machine that is always operating regardless if you're awake, sleeping, sick, not sick, on vacation, at the office, etc.
Yeah. Well, I think on the people not following up with you, that's their fault. As a freelancer, they're not asking those follow-up questions, and that shows me, that exposes to me and exposes them that they don't understand the full system. They only understand their role in the system, which is fine if that's what you need. I don't operate that way. I want to understand how what I write here right now is going to make you millions of dollars. And if I can't draw a clear line to that endpoint, then I'm going to start asking questions, because I know inevitably the guilt, whether or not it's my fault or not, is going to be placed back on me as the freelancer, and the business will ultimately fail. And if I care about you and I respect you and I like the offer and believe in the business, it's my responsibility to ask you those questions. And if you can't answer them, then that's a huge red flag. So this happened with a client. He told me that, oh, he's got his system. He's good. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll write you the copy. Boom, wrote him the copy, got somebody to fly across the entire US. They paid their own way, a lead, paid to fly to have lunch with him and discuss a $40,000 coaching contract for himself, and then a potential couple $100,000 contract for his entire staff. And he fumbled it.
What happened?
The dude left the lunch more unsure than flying there, which is insane. So that told me that the guy actually didn't have the systems and processes down plainly enough so that he could confidently pitch his own offer to somebody, which is a horrifying situation. I was horrified. I'm like, what? We worked so hard to get that. Well, not so hard. I figured it out and you don't have it figured out. That's a problem.
And where did they fumble it? Just their delivery? Did you ever figure it out? Did you ever even have a conversation with them about it?
Yeah, the delivery wasn't there because he didn't have his offer built out clearly enough in his mind. And like, okay, this is, the first couple weeks, we're going to address this, this, and this. The second couple weeks is what you get from me. He didn't have clear deliverables mapped out when he told me he did. And when it came down to that stress point to communicate those clear deliverables that he would give that were in his offer, they weren't there. And the guy realized that. All right, he's not going to pay $45,000 for generalistic terms and like, well, we'll figure it out. It's customizable. No, people don't pay $45,000 for woo-woo land. They pay it for certainty, for clarity. And this guy couldn't give that to him because he didn't create it. He didn't do the work.
Yeah. I mean, I've been working on you go to any place. Do you want a small, medium, or large, Amanda? Which one do you want? Okay, this is what you're getting. You know exactly what you're getting. So, I mean, they basically just didn't have any sort of structure of work. So that way the person could hold them accountable to that work. Is that really what it came down to?
Yeah. And if you're going to ask somebody for that big of an investment, you better know what you're doing and you better have a clear framework and clear KPIs to say, this is what I give you. This is what's going to happen. If you do the work with me, this is the result you're going to get. If you can't communicate that, you don't have a business.
So that was like the big, that was the big realization that you had to start building these systems.
Yeah. Because even if they believe that they have them, they don't. And so my new process is that I audit the founder as soon as they come to me. So they might believe that they're interviewing me for a COO position. I'm interviewing them to see if they're capable, if their business is the right business model, if they're people of integrity, because I will not make the wrong people successful and I will not make delusional people successful.
Yeah. Delulu people are the worst.
Well, they don't make money. They stay stuck in this weird little world and I can't do anything with that. It's being dishonest with yourself, essentially. And I don't work with dishonest people. I'm known for being way too honest and direct. And that's honestly what a lot of people hire me for, because wealthy people don't have anyone who's brave enough to be honest with them. They've got a lot of yes people around them and I'm not that girl. So...
Yeah, I remember we had a call and you were like looking at me and you literally said, Josh, I can't read you at all. I was like, thank you. Is that a good thing? Bad thing? But it was funny how you were just like open and honest about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a very stoic person. And that's a good thing, right? It can be good and bad, but you are difficult to read because you're very consistent and just neutral. That's a power move for sure. And I don't know where you picked up that skill, but it definitely can aid you in things, but it can also make people standoffish because they might not feel like they can connect with the real you, even if you're presenting that. So yeah, there's some truth right there.
Yeah, it just takes takes a little working. So all right, when we first met, you were just straight doing copy, language, getting the person to the door. And then after they walk through that door, then that's where your journey stopped. Now you're working on the systems. What sort of systems have you started helping with that are different than just oh, I have a CRM. I email people once I comment on Instagram.
Yeah, so we're turning that into an ecosystem that gives you specific results. So when it comes to social media, there are so many strategies, there's so many ideas, there's so many methods that you could follow, and they all work if you commit to one of them. Lots of people get confused and they try something for a week and then they're like, and then they change their mind. Well, of course, that's not going to work. If I try to diet for a week, I would never get fit. If I tried anything for a week, it would never be successful. So with these individuals, first we audit the founder, like we just discussed, we audit their time, asking them, what do you really want? What do you want out of this business? What do you want out of your life? Because a lot of them have built a business to where they're being held captive by it, and them stepping out for one day or a week seems insane to them. The whole business will just fall apart. You've got a job at that point. You don't have a business. And so I help them adjust that so that if they stepped away, their business would run without them. So that looks like automations, that looks like fulfillment processes, as well as team building is a huge part of that, to where the CEO actually doesn't own any part of that process. He can step in and out as needed, but he's raised up and empowered people within his business to operate without him. So that's a huge part of what I'm doing right now with one of the companies I'm working with. And he just went away for almost 2.5 weeks to go golfing. He golfed with Kevin Hart. He golfed with Ryan Padina. He was at Masters. He was at Pebble Beach, and he had a great time. And guess what? His business did almost better without him. And that's the goal. And that's a very clear message of stop meddling and let your business run. It wants to run and you keep getting in the way. So, that's not necessarily all the way true with him, right? But we've worked really hard to build SOPs. Clear roles are being defined. People know what they're responsible for, and what they're not responsible for is a big one, especially with these startups. And that way we can see where there's gaps in the business, where mistakes are being made, and we can either hire, fire, or create new systems to fill those gaps.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And you just happy little accident stumbled into it. So once you had this person that fumbled on the person who literally flew to meet them face to face, in my mind, the deal's done. It's just more of I just want to see if you're real or not.
Yeah.
So how did you start to transition from just the copywriter to copywriting systems, cash flow, copy, cash flow, mindset, cash flow, handwriting?
Cash flow, all the things. So in that particular situation, it was a come to Jesus moment and a really honest conversation of, you messed up. You told me this. That's obviously not the truth. So can we accept that that's not the truth? And then will you allow me to build an offer and roles and deliverables and KPIs and benchmarks for this offer? Because if you let me do this, I can make you 10 times more successful. But you have to be in the trenches with me for about a month in order for me to extract this out of you, build it, and then you have to approve to it, and then you have to stick to it. So it happened for me as accidental scope creep of me not doing what I teach everyone to do. And I ended up just owning all these random things to where I was almost stepping into this, what they would see as an assistant role, but a much more heavily operations role, where I was communicating with their assistant what to do. I was communicating to their social media team what to do, their ads guy. And I was the main connector of all these parts of their business. And I was owning it and not necessarily getting paid for it. So I was okay, well, this needs to stop immediately, because I'm running these entire businesses and I'm still being referred to as the copywriter or as their assistant. And with this guy in particular, where the person flew, he started calling me his right-hand woman and his brand director. I'm okay, that's an interesting concept and one that I haven't necessarily owned, but he's not wrong. So I started kind of looking at, as I was assigning roles to different people in their businesses, it became very clear to me that my role was CEO by definition, the tasks I was carrying out and the responsibilities I held within these businesses. And then I sat there and I went back and looked at all the other clients I'd worked with previously in the past 6 years and saw this consistent theme of where I was owning things outside the scope of copy, actually running operations, actually running point on a number of things, and the actions I took, how that directly affected the business and made the businesses more profitable. So I'm like, well, gosh dang, let's tee this buddy up. And somebody came to me with the conversation, well, I can't really give you equity in my business because that's a C-suite executive thing. And I'm like, excuse you, I'm doing that work. So how about you just give me the title so that I can do this work for you? And they did. So with the majority of my deals in these businesses as a COO, I'm also come to them with, obviously I have, 6-month kind of offer that I give them. And in that, I am requesting equity for businesses that have an exit plan. And I help them get to that successful exit within 2 to 3 years. And then I get paid out in that as well.
That's cool. So like, what kind of projects are you working on that you could like potentially help people with based off like what you're currently doing as the new COO of everything that you're working on? Like copywriting, systems, basically anything that brings a customer in the door and then is able to convert that customer. Well, I guess that person into a customer or a partner, however you want to phrase it.
Yeah. So what I believe you're asking is like, what do I offer, or?
Yeah, like specifically, what kind of things are you doing with like the automation? Like what sort of are like, simple problems that like everyone that owns a business or wants to own a business needs to realize so they don't have to have that come to a Jesus meeting on that front. They'll have a different kind of meeting, but maybe you could help someone avoid that talk.
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys, they start off not believing that they're going to be successful, which is wild. They're brave enough to believe that it can make money. They're not brave enough to believe that it could grow to be something that would need SOPs, that would need hires, that would need tracking and data. So they build these businesses thinking that it's going to be a small business with a small business mindset or a solo business mindset. And then when the demand grows and it gets drastically out of control, I mean, this one business was being run completely in a group text. That's it. And when I first stepped into it, I was getting 500 to 900 text messages a day just from this one group, and no SOPs, nothing written down, nothing tracked, hot mess express. So, I mean, one of the first things I did was, okay, we don't do that, because when you look at a group text, first of all, they're annoying. And second of all, there's no way to track that data or information, hold anybody accountable to it. So we moved immediately over into Slack, and where all the information can be seen. Nothing is living inside people's heads anymore. They're in SOPs. It's all being talked out. They're kind of reporting as they go throughout the day. Okay, I just did A, B, and C. I'm tagging this person over here to pick up the next part of the process. And I get an end-of-day report automatically generated through AI of what everyone's talking about all day through Slack. And it's beautiful. It's amazing. So yeah, I think if people actually believe in their business, build it as if it's going to be a multi-million-dollar business, and you'll actually be a lot more successful in getting there. I think people quit a successful business 3 years in because they hate it, because they're exhausted, because they have no time off. And they're like, what the heck? Entrepreneurship was supposed to give me freedom. And now I work 14 hours a day. I barely talk to my wife. I barely see my kids. I could never take a vacation. Are you kidding me? And it's because they didn't build it like a real business. They built it like a side project or a hobby. So if you build those systems, those SOPs, even when it's just you, have those financial meetings booked on your calendar, even if it's just you, have an operations meeting weekly, even if it's just you, and it won't be that way if you approach it that way.
So basically a little bit of manifesting.
Yeah. Well, it's manifesting and it's planning. Like you wouldn't just start a international travel vacation unless you're wild and crazy, and good for you if you can do this, but you wouldn't just buy a ticket to Italy and that's it. You would plan out the whole trip. Right? Hopefully to some degree, right? Unless maybe it's a bad example.
I didn't do that. I just bought the ticket and I was like, I'll walk this way today.
Okay, well, good for you. But if you want a particular outcome, then you need to have a particular plan and you need to have particular steps to get you there. Otherwise, I mean, maybe it'll end up as a beautiful adventure. In business, 9 times out of 10, it's going to mean the business fails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I find a lot of people that I talk to, they like create something and it's like successful, but then they like have to go backwards to like create the business second. And a lot of people have like said to me, they're like, well, you're not like doing this, you're not doing that. I'm like, I'm building all this stuff so I don't have to like worry about this later.
Yep.
So sometimes I feel like I've done the opposite, which is actually like a slower way,
Yeah.
but is actually like faster when I like look back on things.
100%. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah, I tell that with my golf swing. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
And it's
Yeah.
true, specifically in the business.
Yeah, I mean, especially now with like AI, I feel like there's no excuses.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can do anything. Like right now I'm working on, I've had Ari Mizell on here, and he like did something like the irreplaceable founder. And he's like talked about like using, what's the name of the app? He was using Voxer, but it was like a different app. What was it called? Maybe I deleted it because I have no one else to talk to on it. I forgot the name of the app. Oh, here it is. It's called Carbon Voice.
Okay.
Basically, like you can use it, you can like use Zaps and be like, hey, like, you know, do this voice note, send it out, turn it into a blog post, turn it into like scripts, like all this sort of stuff. So like I've been working on like the Zaps and stuff, like, hey, someone goes through here. I like created this new persona game. I feel like you'd be proud of me. And like if it comes through and someone gets a certain persona, it like automatically like sends them a custom email. And now I got to work on like taking, if they're that score, getting it into the CRM and putting them into like a drip campaign automatically. But yeah, it's like, it's not like instantaneous. It's like a lot of stuff because you got to like create a webhook and then make sure it works, and then your code breaks, and then you got to fix the code, and then you got to go back. But once it works and it's like operational, then it's good. But like going through those things, yeah.
So then, yeah, in that sense, my challenge would be to you, are you the right person to be doing all of that setup?
Hell no.
And would it be more beneficial and more time worthy and more profitable to have, you know, I mean, I can do automations. I can do automations in GHL. I can figure it all out. Everything's figure outable with AI at this point. However, it's like a verse in the Bible. It says all things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial. And so, yeah, I can do all the things, but it's not going to be good use of my time. Whereas I could just pay Thomas, who is my automation developer, brilliant man, and I plug him in and say, hey, can you do A, B, and C? This is what I need to happen. He has it done. He's in London, so he has it done overnight. And I wake up and I've got a brand new automation working beautifully. So I plug him in to all of the businesses I work with. He develops once we get the architect down and once we expose the gaps, he comes in and builds it all the automations and admin and private dashboards, and he's brilliant. So having people to pull into your business that can take over those kinds of things is a huge step, and it's a trust thing. But yeah, like I love that you're playing around with AI and finding ways to automate. I would encourage you, the next step is to have someone to do that for you.
Yeah, I agree. At the same time though, I want to I want to set up the foundation, and then once the foundation's set, like let it go. That way, like I understand how everything works. I understand like what I'm offering. And that way I'm learning as I'm building. So that way it's not, if someone else builds it for me, then I'm not going to like go through the steps of like learning the system, learning the different things that I'm doing. And a lot of the tools I built like by myself. So like I like went through everything. So that way, you know, if I randomly have someone ask me about the tool in a year, I'll like remember what it is, versus if I had like someone else build it, I may not like know. But yeah, I mean, there is a point where I am going to have to pass that baton. Luckily now I still have enough time where I could just do it. And it's kind of fun. It's like a new muscle. It's kind of like if someone has all the resources in the world, you know, they'll just throw money at it to make the problem go away or to fix it, versus like going through the work and putting in the reps and like actually like building it.
Yeah. And that's the phase you're at with your business, right? So when it's time to duplicate and time to scale, that's when you start plugging those people in, and you'll have all those SOPs and all those processes and systems down because you're building it that way. So you're in the perfect position to scale as long as you have those things that you're doing as you're figuring it out and building and learning. That way, when you hand it over to someone, you can hand them over a packet and be like, okay, now go multiply this. And they go multiply it. And they don't have to sit and interview you and ask you a bazillion questions. They can just easily go and replicate it.
Yeah. I mean, I look at things as like, if I have to prepare for something, that means I don't know it well enough. Like I want to hop onto a meeting. I'm like, you know, ask me a question. I might have to think about it for a second I'll just do the Elon pause.
Yeah. I love it. And then that's when, the goal is to buy back your time as an entrepreneur, as a businessman. Time is our most valuable thing that we have. So if you want to buy back your time, then you want somebody else to get on those meetings for you and not you. And you still make money off that meeting. So then that's when that replication process is super important, so that you're not the only person who knows all this information.
One day.
Right. You're getting there, and you're building the business in a way to where that will actually be something you can do, which is phenomenal, which brings us right back around to slow is smooth and smooth is fast. You're building it the right way. Whereas majority of people do not build it that way, and everything lives inside their head, and their employees are frustrated. They're frustrated. Everyone's frustrated, and they don't know why. And it's like, well, because this is all gate kept information that lives inside your head, and I have to extract it out now and put it into systems and SOPs and employee handbooks so that we can duplicate the processes.
Yeah. At the same time, though, when you're like running a business, like you can get like caught up in like building the processes, and then you like, man, I'm not doing any work that's like leading anywhere. So it's like finding that balance. How have you been like adjusting that? Because like some, people get hyper focused, like, oh, I got to build all these systems, and it's like, oh, like I haven't reached out to anyone in 3 weeks, like sort of deal. So like, how do you like navigate that with the current position that you're in with the folks that you're helping?
It comes down to priority management. So people often think they need time blocking. Time blocking is for employees, not for CEOs or visionaries. Time blocking won't ever work for visionaries because they see something shiny and they run off in that direction, and good luck trying to get them. And it feels like prison. Time blocking feels suffocating to employees to visionaries and to CEOs. So for people like you who are visionaries to CEOs, they need to understand how to prioritize their day and be committed to that. So it's having a very clear vision of what they actually want. And that's going to always take top priority, the things that are going to move the needle forward of what they want. And then what comes next in that priority list is things that make them feel alive and things they enjoy. If they do all of the things that are under moving that business forward for the day, which are usually 3 to 5 tasks, nothing crazy, but 3 to 5 tasks of what they need to do to get that long-term end result that they're looking for. And then immediately after they do those things, then you've earned the permission to go get those and do those things that make you happy or inspire you or feel fulfilling to you. So that's usually how I have my guys break up their days so that they don't get burnt out. And so they feel happy and fulfilled and still have the capacity to be the visionary, to come in and rah-rah the group, to come in and improve things, to think big picture. And then they bring those things to me and we decide how that's actually going to flow into the current workflow.
Yeah, because I know you wrote down do you work strictly with male founders? Is that like, okay, so you like identified that area. How did you identify that's the kind of person that you work best with and why?
I hurt a lot of feelings. And that's how I realized that I am not good with working with females. I'm terrible writer for females as well. So I figured out really quick in my writing process that I write best in a male tone, a direct, authoritative, kind of dominant tone is how I communicate and write. Whereas with females, they're much more emotionally aware and intelligent, but they're not emotionally disciplined. And that's where I would have issues and not be able to connect with women in that way. I'm working on this. So this is also part how I'm wired and part the areas I need to heal and fix and grow in. So I recently joined an all women's business group, which 2 years ago, I would be like, ew, gross. That sounds like the most horrific thing in the world. But I've recognized my need for that and I've started growing in that area. That being said, I still pretty much hold fast to I like working with men because we can execute and get things done. Women tend to feel their way through things, or they have a lot more on their plate with maybe they have a family, or maybe they, have other things that they're usually doing at the same time. They're serial multitaskers. Men are usually one track minded, so we can get things done and get results done. I also have that rule around religious people because then there's a lot of back and forth. And we don't have time for back and forth. Decisions need to be made and they need to be executed on if you want results. And so men who are really locked in to their vision and what they want, because they usually are, we can get better results for them. and quicker results for them. So I like the quick, easy, not necessarily easy and not necessarily quick, but in this context, the quick, direct, easy wins when it comes to working with males in writing and in the COO work.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you think you'll ever break that rule to like see if you can do it?
Yeah, I have before. So usually they're very like alpha women. I mean, so one of them, Sophia Castro. I mean, she's brilliant. She would be totally cool with me talking about her. She's married to a very high strung individual, Bobby. I wrote his book years and years ago. And then I re-met them at a conference. And Sophia's like, you have to write my book. And I'm like, okay, absolutely. You already know your world. I already know your husband pretty well. I already know your business models, your history pretty well. So like, and she's very aggressive. She's very dominant. She's very like boss babe kind of vibes. And so I knew that we could get it done. And we're about to finish the book actually, probably in a month or two. And I've done numbers of projects with her and her entire family because their whole family has multiple businesses. So I've done 3-day shoots that I've directed with them. I've managed all of their offers. I've managed multiple things with them. Fantastic family. I love them so much. But she is one of the outliers. And it's kind of funny because in the past, I put in like my bios or whatever that I only work with males. And every time I do that, I get a slew of female entrepreneurs messaging me being like, okay, but, and they're like, no, I only work with males too. And so like, I think you would get that. And they come to me. It's such an interesting like label. And it has such an interesting reaction with people on the internet because the women will identify themselves in alignment with me in that way. And so if, all the boxes check out and if they check out and I interview them and they seem like a good fit, then I'll make them an offer. But they have to know their stuff. They have to know what they want. I think that's probably the biggest problem I see among women in entrepreneurship is they're not very clear on what they want. And men usually are.
In what ways? Like,
they know what they want the outcome to be 100%. They're like, I want this and this timeline, and it needs to happen this way. And I'll go, okay, I can get you this. I can get you this in this timeline, but it's not going to be this way. It's going to be this way. Are you cool with that? And they say yes. And then we get it done. Women are like, well, I want this, but I don't want this. And I kind of want this to happen. And there's like a million different hoops to jump through to get that outcome. So they're not completely committed to what they say they want. They tend to compromise, honestly, because as women, we naturally compromise because the end result isn't the journey for a lot of women. It's nurturing, it's building, it's creating, it's experiencing, creating environments. And so that changes a lot for women just because of the way women are wired. It's not good or bad. It's just is what it is. And so it's very difficult to get specific results when somebody changes the goal line and how they feel about the things that are happening on a daily basis. So, and I do have men like that sometimes too. And I'll call them straight out for it. I'm like, you're acting like a girl right now. Stop it. And they'll go, oh, they get pretty, like one guy just got mad at me the other day. I'm like, listen, you also did not hire me to placate you. I'm not your mother. I'm running your business. Do you still want this result? Yes. Okay, then stop it. And then they'll stop it.
Just like that.
Well, men are like in general, and we're definitely speaking in massive generalities here, but men are so great at holding the vision and staying dedicated to it through death. Like they'll do, I mean, you see like Spartans, you see men going off to war, you see men doing incredible things because they're committed to a single idea or a single outcome. Like history is full of hundreds of thousands of millions of examples of this. It's also true in business. They are very good at staying committed to that one end result, one end outcome, one idea. Women do not do that. We are not wired to do that because we cannot be women that way normally. So that's why when they're committed, if I have a man who's committed to one idea, I can come in as a woman and creatively get us there. Find the creative solutions that will get that result for them.
Yeah, well, so we all have stuff we need to work on.
I think in wide generalities, like men being the leaders and women being the number two in the support system, it definitely comes into play. And more of those traditional kind of ideas about roles works very well in a business concept to where I'm a great COO if you're a great CEO. And usually that looks like a male and a female type of vibes.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has to know their role and do what you do. Nothing more, nothing less. Just do what you do.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest conversations that also comes up in startups when they have employees is everyone's used to doing everything. And that is kind of required in a startup. But once you move from a startup into a business that's scaling, that becomes a huge pain point because then everyone's trying to own everybody else's jobs and systems and to-dos, and they just create messes. So like right now, right before this conversation, and my phone's blowing up, I was in a big conversation with a couple of the employees of like, stop. I know you care about the whole business, but you're not the owner, first off. And second of all, I've asked you to do this specific list of tasks and stop messing with these people over here. I know you've carried it. I know you know what's important over here. I know you know how to do these things over here. I'm not asking you to do that anymore. I'm asking you to do this and fulfill this role. Can you do that for me? And it's painful for him because balls are being dropped. Mistakes are happening and it hurts him because he cares so much about the business that he's helped build. And I'm like, dude, I need it to break so I can know where to fix things, so I can know who to hire, who to fire. Like that's the whole point. And I need you to cover your own ass right now and do what I've asked you to do and do it well. He's like, all right, okay. It's tough, but it's required.
Yeah, you gotta do what's required. And sounds like you're doing it, Amanda. So I was happy to have you finally get on, chit chat a little bit.
Yeah, you got me in a chatty mood. So sorry if I talk too much.
No, it's all good. Happy you came on, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.